I walked into my husband's company's opulent party holding a gift, only to watch his wealthy female boss get down on one knee and propose to him, asking, "Will you leave your poor, powerless wife and marry me?" Then, my husband said yes. So I turned and walked away without a word and immediately dismantled everything, pulling my 67% company share, valued at $234 million. Minutes later, my phone showed 27 missed calls, and a frantic knock rattled my door. I was zipping up the sapphire blue silk of my evening gown, preparing for tonight's company gala, when Julian's phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a message from Veronica Slate, his boss and Chicago's most formidable venture capitalist. The text detailed their plan to publicly shatter our marriage for a business advantage. "The proposal is set for during my keynote," her message read with chilling clarity. "Clara's public breakdown will provide the justification for the ownership transfer we need." The rare limited edition Patek Philippe watch, my anniversary gift to him, sat wrapped on our dresser. In an instant, it transformed from a token of affection into a piece of evidence, proof of just how blind I'd been to my true role in the night's upcoming spectacle. The fabric of my dress felt less like silk and more like armor as I absorbed the weight of what I had just uncovered. From our marble bathroom, Julian was humming as he fumbled with his bow tie, completely unaware that his phone had just exposed 6 months of meticulously coordinated deception. The string of messages painted a horrifyingly clear picture of calculated manipulation. My husband and his boss had been orchestrating my public humiliation to seize control of Apex Innovations, the company I had built from the ground up with my Stanford law background and my innate genius for coding. My fingers traced the sharp edges of the gift box, the $30,000 Patek Philippe watch inside. I had chosen it because Julian once offhandedly admired vintage Swiss watchmaking. The irony was a physical weight in my chest. I had poured weeks into finding the perfect anniversary gift, while he had spent those same weeks plotting my corporate execution with a woman who saw our marriage as a mere business liability to be eliminated. "Clara, have you seen my cufflinks?" Julian's voice echoed from the bathroom, carrying the easy confidence of a man certain his secrets were secure. I went to his jewelry box and retrieved the platinum cufflinks, my hands surprisingly steady despite the seismic tremor rocking my core. The cufflinks were embossed with the Apex Innovations logo, a symbol I had personally designed back in our startup days, a time when partnership meant equality, not this elaborate, cruel performance. Our sprawling penthouse, overlooking Lake Michigan, was a testament to 6 years of carefully cultivated success. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Chicago skyline, and the furniture was chosen to project an image of tech royalty. Every single piece, from the custom Italian leather sofas to the original art that cost more than most people's homes, told the story of Apex Innovations' meteoric rise. But what this elegant facade couldn't show was the mathematical truth locked away in our home safe. I owned 67% of the company. Julian held a mere 33%. This distribution was based on my grandmother's inheritance, which had provided the seed money for our initial operations, and my subsequent innovations, which had generated every single dollar of our current wealth. My grandmother, Sophia Rossi, had worked 3 jobs to establish a small tech consulting firm back in the 1980s. She left me her life savings with a handwritten note in Italian, "Para mi nieta brillante." Build something that matters, and never let anyone claim your work. Her words rang in my ears as I realized I had not only failed her most critical piece of advice, but had done so while building upon her financial legacy. The woman who had sacrificed everything for future generations would be heartbroken to know her granddaughter had allowed herself to become invisible in her own success story. The morning routine had proceeded like a well-rehearsed play. Julian reviewed his keynote speech for the investor gala. his presentation notes nothing more than printed copies of my own research, filled with annotations I had painstakingly written to help him grasp the very concepts he would present as his own breakthrough ideas. The neural network architecture represents a paradigm shift in machine learning capabilities, he practiced, stumbling over terminology I had spent countless late nights teaching him. The entire technical foundation of his public reputation rested on algorithms I had personally developed during grueling 18-hour coding sessions, while he was off managing strategic partnerships at lavish conferences. My reflection in the bedroom mirror showed a woman I barely recognized, a woman transformed by this sudden, brutal knowledge. Clara Thorne, Stanford Law graduate turned pioneering computer scientist, had been reduced to a supporting actress in her own professional life. The sapphire blue gown I wore was designer, purchased with money from patent royalties that bore my name as the primary inventor. And yet, tonight, I was expected to attend our company's most important event as Julian's wife, not as the architect of the innovations being celebrated. My walk-in closet was a museum of 6 years of corporate costuming. Each outfit was carefully selected to project the image of a supportive spouse, not a brilliant entrepreneur. There was board meeting attire that signaled professional competence without threatening masculine ego, and conference outfits that hinted at technical knowledge while maintaining a deferential posture to Julian's leadership. Tonight's gown was the pinnacle of this image management, elegant enough for the press photos, while ensuring I remained a decorative accessory, never central to the business at hand. Julian emerged from the bathroom, looking every bit the polished tech executive, his appearance honed by professional stylists and expensive tailoring. "You look beautiful tonight," he said, the compliment landing with the hollow thud of an automated response, devoid of any genuine warmth. There was no flicker of guilt in his eyes, no hint of hesitation, which suggested either an Oscar-worthy acting ability or a terrifying capacity to compartmentalize his betrayal. I found myself wondering how long he'd been rehearsing this part, how many mornings he had looked me in the eye while secretly planning my ruin. The Patek Philippe watch was more than just an anniversary gift now. It symbolized 6 years of misplaced trust, of willful blindness to the mounting evidence of my own exploitation. Our early conversations had been thrilling, hours spent debating technical possibilities and business strategies. His curiosity about my ideas had once matched my own collaborative enthusiasm, but slowly, subtly, those exchanges had devolved into one-sided tutorials. I would explain complex concepts, and he would nod and take notes for his future presentations. The evolution had been so gradual that I had mistaken intellectual theft for partnership, until tonight's discovery made the pattern undeniable. The documents in our home safe told a starkly different story than the one Julian would tell the investors tonight. The incorporation papers, which I had drafted with a legal expertise he never had, clearly established my majority ownership of Apex Innovations. The patent filings detailed the innovations that generated our $350 million annual revenue, each one bearing my name as the primary inventor. Bank records showed my grandmother's inheritance as the initial capital that had transformed Julian's ambitious talk into an operational reality. These documents were the mathematical truth in a world increasingly dominated by smoke and mirrors and PR campaigns. The surreal nature of preparing for my own corporate execution while maintaining the facade of a happy marriage filled our penthouse with a chilling atmosphere. I applied my makeup with mechanical precision, each brushstroke a contribution to the image of the devoted wife attending her husband's triumph. The woman in the mirror looked flawless for tonight's role, elegant, supportive, and utterly oblivious to the systematic demolition orchestrated by Veronica Slate with such cold efficiency. My phone lit up with 17 missed calls from my assistant, Maya Chen, alongside texts about urgent technical problems that needed my immediate attention. The neural network optimization project was showing anomalies that could threaten our next product launch, complex algorithmic issues that demanded an expertise Julian simply did not possess. Yet tonight, I was supposed to sit in the audience and applaud while he accepted accolades for innovations he couldn't even begin to debug, let alone replicate. His entire reputation was a house of cards, built on a foundation I had laid through sleepless nights dedicated to mathematical elegance and computational breakthroughs. The elevator ride down to the parking garage offered a final moment of quiet before the performance began. Julian chattered on about investor expectations and networking opportunities, his excitement genuine as he looked forward to a night of professional validation. I clutched the gift box, the watch inside feeling like a lead weight, understanding that I was about to witness the climax of months of planning designed to strip me of my life's work. Our limousine pulled away from the curb, heading toward the Monarch Grand Hotel, where 300 of Chicago's most influential business leaders would gather to celebrate another year of Apex Innovations' success. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows as we sped toward what I now knew was not an anniversary celebration, but a meticulously staged corporate coup disguised as a party. The perfect life we had built together was about to be exposed as an elaborate performance, funded by my genius and enabled by my willingness to remain invisible in my own story. The limousine navigated Chicago's financial district as Julian's phone continued to buzz relentlessly. Each notification sent a small, sharp pang through my chest, a reminder of the messages I had discovered. The device sat on the leather seat between us like a ticking bomb, its screen lighting up with incoming texts that he would quickly silence without a glance. His fingers moved with a practiced ease that told me this was a routine, not a one-time occurrence. Leo sent the final guest list, Julian said, though I noted he hadn't actually looked at any message to confirm it. His voice had a forced casualness that made my skin crawl, the tone of someone trying too hard to act normal while juggling multiple deceptions. The past month had been littered with these small, insidious lies, plausible explanations for behavior that had become increasingly erratic. The late-night phone calls had started about 3 weeks ago, hushed conversations that would end abruptly the moment I walked into the room. He'd claimed they were investor relations calls or board discussions, but his body language told a different story. He would lean in, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur usually reserved for us. When I'd ask about the calls later, his answers were vague, contradictory, filled with details that didn't match our actual business calendar. Veronica has some really innovative ideas about scaling our market reach, Julian went on, his enthusiasm for her business savvy causing that familiar tightness to return to my chest. The way he spoke her name had changed in recent weeks, shifting from professional respect to something bordering on reverence. Veronica Slate was a force of nature. She commanded attention in any room. Her reputation as Chicago's most aggressive venture capitalist was built on a foundation of ruthless acquisitions and killer business instincts. Julian's fascination with her investment philosophy had started innocently enough, but now it colored every conversation about the future of Apex Innovations. The preparations for tonight's gala had also revealed a new layer of his anxiety. Julian had tried on 3 different suits this afternoon, seeking my opinion with a nervous energy that felt entirely out of place for a simple anniversary celebration. His questions weren't about what I liked, but about which outfit would photograph best under the ballroom lights, which tie would pop on stage during a keynote. It was clear he was preparing for a performance, not a partnership, consumed with how his appearance would be judged by a specific audience rather than how he felt celebrating with his wife. "Did you know Veronica launched her first company when she was just 24? He asked, though I hadn't expressed any interest in his boss's biography. His phone buzzed again, and this time I saw her name flash on the screen before he quickly flipped the device over. The frequency of their communication had escalated dramatically, with messages arriving at all hours, including weekends and early mornings, times when professional correspondence would be highly unusual. Our limo passed the Apex Innovations Tower, 24 floors of office space housing the company I had built with algorithms I'd designed through countless sleepless nights. The irony of seeing my life's work from the back of a car paid for by my own innovations was not lost on me, especially now that I knew tonight was a celebration of achievements I had created, with someone else poised to claim all the credit. The dynamics at the office had also shifted in subtle but undeniable ways. Conversations would halt the moment I approached a group of employees, their sudden silence indicating topics I wasn't meant to hear. My own technical team seemed distracted during project reviews, their usual excitement for our work dampened by an undercurrent of tension I couldn't quite place. Maya Chen, my brilliant assistant and one of our top engineers, had been asking probing questions about my long-term vision for the company, her inquiries feeling less like casual conversation and more like strategic intelligence gathering. Leo Vance, Julian's assistant, had become particularly skittish around me. His usual professional polish had been replaced by an awkward avoidance of eye contact and stammered replies to simple questions about schedules. Yesterday, I'd caught him slamming his laptop shut when I entered Julian's office, his flustered excuse about confidential investor materials failing to mask his obvious discomfort. The investor materials for tonight's gala had been finalized without my review or approval, a stark departure from our established protocol, which required both co-founders to sign off on all strategic presentations. The documents I later found contained proposals for restructuring company ownership, diminishing my role while elevating external partnerships with venture capital firms. Veronica Slate's investment group was featured prominently, with plans for an expanded collaboration that would effectively turn Apex Innovations from an independent powerhouse into a subsidiary. "She really gets the vision we have for scaling," Julian said, and his use of "we" was a dagger. The shift from I when discussing Veronica's involvement suggested a partnership that went far beyond professional consultation, into a shared decision-making process that should have absolutely required my input as the majority stakeholder. The Patek Philippe watch rested in its velvet box on my lap, a gift that once symbolized 6 years of marriage now feeling like a monument to my own naivety. Julian's distracted responses to my attempts at conversation throughout the day had created a hollow, lonely atmosphere in our penthouse, as if we were already living separate lives in the same space. His answers about tonight's agenda had been evasive, full of vague references to surprises and special presentations that I was clearly not a part of. "Will you be sitting with the board during dinner?" I asked. A simple test to see if he would lie about seating arrangements I knew had been finalized weeks ago. His slight hesitation before answering confirmed my suspicion. Tonight's logistics had been meticulously designed around conversations I was not meant to hear. The limo turned onto Arlington Street, bringing us closer to the Monarch Grand Hotel, where 300 guests were already gathering for what I now understood was far more than a celebration. Julian checked his reflection in the partition mirror one last time, his face a mask of a man preparing for a high-stakes performance. The nervous energy radiating off him was undeniable, a clear sign that tonight held a significance he had deliberately concealed from me. My phone showed 3 more missed calls from Maya, her texts about the urgent technical issues growing more frantic. The neural network project was in jeopardy, a crisis that demanded an expertise Julian didn't have, despite his readiness to accept praise for solutions I would inevitably provide. The timing of this technical emergency now felt deeply suspicious, a convenient crisis designed to justify my absence from key social moments during the event. The weight of the watchbox in my hands had transformed from hopeful anticipation to a cold dread. I finally recognized how completely I had misread my role in tonight's production. 6 years of marriage had taught me to read Julian's moods, but the past few weeks had revealed a depth of deception I could never have imagined. The man beside me was a stranger. His loyalties and motivations shifted in ways that threatened the very foundations of the life I had built. As our limousine approached the hotel's grand entrance, I knew with chilling certainty that tonight was not an anniversary celebration. It was the culmination of a careful plot, designed to surgically remove me from my own success story. The Monarch Grand Hotel's circular driveway was a whirlwind of activity, with valets directing a stream of luxury cars. Through the tinted windows, I watched Chicago's tech elite step out in their designer attire, their animated chatter and confident gaits signaling their anticipation for the night's main event. The hotel's grand facade was bathed in a warm, inviting light, transforming the entrance into a stage, complete with a red carpet and a gauntlet of photographers ready to capture every arrival for the morning business pages. Julian straightened his bow tie one final time as our driver opened the door, his nervous energy practically vibrating in the small space. "Remember to smile for the cameras," he instructed, though his own smile looked tight and practiced. The Patek Philippe in my purse felt like an anchor, its weight a constant, heavy reminder of how profoundly I had misjudged the evening's purpose. The ballroom doors swung open to reveal a scene of breathtaking opulence, designed to impress even the most jaded corporate observers. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, casting a prismatic glow across the polished marble floors. 300 guests moved through the space with a choreographed elegance, their conversations a low symphony of ambition and networking. This was a sound that usually energized me, but tonight it felt sinister, charged with an undercurrent of anticipation that made my skin crawl. Julian's hand rested on the small of my back as we entered, but his eyes were already scanning the crowd for someone else. His body language screamed distraction, despite the perfectly rehearsed smile he offered the photographers documenting our arrival. The jarring disconnect between his physical presence beside me and his obvious mental focus elsewhere created an unsettling dissonance that even other guests seemed to notice. "Clara, you look absolutely stunning," commented Margaret Chin, a board member whose husband ran one of Chicago's biggest investment firms. Her compliment felt hollow, delivered while her gaze darted to Julian, gauging his reactions to the room rather than focusing on me. This subtle shift in social dynamics was telling. Others had sensed a change in our marriage long before I had allowed myself to acknowledge it. Waiters circulated with flutes of champagne and elaborate canapes, a testament to a catering budget typically reserved for major corporate milestones. The guest list was a who's who of New England venture capital, alongside representatives from tech giants whose partnerships could elevate Apex Innovations to a global leader. The sheer scale of this event pointed to a purpose far beyond a simple anniversary party. "There's Veronica," Julian said, his voice laced with a warmth that sent a chill down my spine. Veronica Slate commanded the room from the moment she walked in. Her presence was magnetic, transforming casual chatter into focused networking as guests jockeyed for an introduction. Her reputation as a ruthless dealmaker preceded her, but tonight she carried an additional air of authority, a sign that this particular gathering held a special significance. Dinner service was executed with military precision, each course perfectly timed to maintain the flow of conversation while building suspense for the evening's presentations. I found myself at the head table next to Julian, with a perfect view of the stage where he would soon deliver his keynote. The seating arrangement felt deliberate, designed to ensure I had a front row seat for whatever performance had been planned for my benefit. Julian's phone buzzed incessantly throughout the meal, each vibration causing a small flinch that betrayed his nerves. His responses to my attempts at conversation were short and distracted, his attention clearly divided between maintaining appearances and monitoring some unseen development. The man beside me had become a stranger, his loyalties shifted in a way that threatened everything I held dear. "Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced as dessert plates were cleared and the stage lights brightened. Please join me in welcoming Veronica Slate, whose strategic vision continues to revolutionize technology investment. The applause was thunderous, a genuine ovation from a crowd that recognized her immense influence. Her commanding presence at the podium radiated confidence, though a glint in her eye hinted at a purpose beyond a standard investor speech. Tonight, we celebrate not just financial success, but the personal relationships that make transformative partnerships possible, Veronica began, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. The opening was conventional, but my stomach twisted as her speech veered into more personal territory. The energy in the room shifted, becoming electric with what I can only describe as bloodlust disguised as entertainment. 300 guests sensed drama, like predators detecting wounded prey. Then, Veronica stepped away from the podium, produced a handheld microphone, and dropped to one knee. The crowd's reaction confirmed my worst fears. Conversations ceased. Every single guest turned their focus to the stage, their expressions a mix of shock and eager anticipation. They had been primed for this moment, and I was the unwitting star of their show. Julian Thorne, Veronica's voice boomed, amplified to fill every corner of the marble hall, each word precise and designed for maximum impact. Will you leave your poor, powerless wife and marry me? The words were physical blows, each syllable a calculated strike meant to humiliate and shatter me. As if on cue, 300 phones emerged, their cameras ready to capture my destruction in high definition. The public branding of me as poor and powerless was a deliberate character assassination, designed to justify the corporate restructuring that would follow. It reduced my entire identity to an obstacle that needed to be removed. Julian's acceptance came without a moment's hesitation. Yes, he said, his voice strong and clear, sealing his betrayal in front of Chicago's most influential business leaders. The word echoed off the walls like a gunshot, final and irreversible. The applause that followed sounded like artillery fire in my ears. 300 people were celebrating the systematic demolition of my life, their laughter and cheers echoing in a space that now felt like a modern-day coliseum. I watched my husband embrace Veronica as cameras flashed around them, documenting the exact moment my marriage officially became a corporate acquisition strategy. The Patek Philippe in my purse felt like a dead weight, a $30,000 symbol of my love, offered to a man who had just traded me for a better business deal. 6 years of my life, my partnership, my love, all dissolved into a strategic calculation. I was left sitting alone at the head table, while guests rushed to congratulate the happy couple who had just publicly crucified me for their own gain. The crowd expected tears, a dramatic confrontation, an emotional collapse that would provide them with more entertainment. But I chose something far more dangerous, a dignified silence that left them hungry for a show I refused to provide. My refusal to perform, to break down as they had planned, created an uncomfortable energy that began to sour their celebration. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked toward the exit, each step measured and deliberate. Conversations halted around me as guests strained to witness the breakdown they felt they had paid for. The gift box remained clutched in my hand, no longer a gesture of love, but evidence of the last kindness I would ever extend to a man who had mistaken my generosity for weakness. Behind me, Julian and Veronica continued to accept congratulations, their celebration growing louder as I disappeared into the night. A night that would mark the beginning of their very steep education on who truly controlled the company they thought they had just conquered. The penthouse elevator ascended 30 floors in complete silence, each level marking my transition from a victim to a strategist. The lights of Chicago glittered below, millions of illuminated windows representing lives that continued their normal rhythm while mine was being completely reconstructed. The Patek Philippe remained clutched in my hand, no longer a gift, but a relic of the last time I would ever play a supporting role in someone else's story. The front door of our apartment closed behind me with a heavy finality that echoed through the marble hallways, a space designed to impress visitors who would never again be welcome. The home felt different now, transformed from a shared sanctuary into the operational headquarters for the systematic dismantling of everything Julian thought he controlled. Every piece of furniture, every carefully curated artwork, all the symbols of our supposed partnership now looked like props from a play I had unknowingly funded. The wedding photograph on our living room wall seemed to mock me, showing two people who believed they were building something together, when in reality only one of them had been doing the building. Behind that silver frame lay the wall safe, containing 6 years of meticulous documentation, legal papers that told the undeniable, mathematical truth about ownership, innovation, and financial responsibility. My fingers moved with steady precision as I entered the combination, each number representing a date far more significant than the anniversary we were supposed to be celebrating tonight. The incorporation papers spread across our dining room table, like exhibits in a corporate trial. Each document bore my signature as the primary founder, while Julian's name appeared only as a minority stakeholder. The legal language I had drafted, using the expertise from my Stanford law education, had created an unbreakable foundation of ownership rights that no amount of charm or public relations could ever circumvent. The patent filings detailed every single innovation that generated our company's wealth, each one bearing my name as the primary inventor, alongside technical descriptions that proved I alone possessed the expertise to create those breakthrough algorithms. Bank records revealed the source of our initial funding with damning clarity. My grandmother's inheritance had provided the capital that turned Julian's ambitious talk into an operational reality. Her life savings had been invested in a company meant to honor her memory through genuine innovation, not corporate theatrics. Sophia Rossi had worked 3 jobs to build something meaningful, leaving me the resources to continue her legacy of authentic achievement, not borrowed glory. The 67% ownership stake stared back at me from the official documents, a mathematical truth that eviscerated every public narrative about our partnership. These papers were more than just legal protection. They were weapons I had never imagined I would need to use against the man I had once loved and trusted with everything I had built. The bitter irony of preparing to destroy someone using the very documents I had created to protect our shared future was not lost on me. My laptop connected to Apex Innovations' financial systems using passwords only I possessed, revealing the intricate web of authorization protocols I had designed in our early startup days when trust meant sharing everything. The security architecture I had built to shield our company from external threats now became the very mechanism for defending it against an internal one. Every safeguard was working exactly as intended, albeit for a purpose I had never anticipated. The financial records, displayed with spreadsheet precision, told a story of systematic exploitation. This was the money that had funded Julian's transformation from a scrappy startup founder into a celebrated tech mogul. There was $234 million in personal expenses, detailed in transaction records. Every vacation disguised as business development, every consulting fee that somehow involved a 5-star resort, all the executive perks that had built his public reputation while draining our company's operational funds. There were European investor tours, Caribbean strategy retreats, and Manhattan networking events that cost more than most small companies' annual budgets. The documentation revealed a man who had treated corporate funds like his personal piggy bank, all while I worked 18-hour days to generate the very revenue he was squandering. Each receipt told the story of a man who had confused access with ownership, who had mistaken my generosity for weakness. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I realized the profound truth. The woman who builds the system retains ultimate authority over its operation. The authorization protocols I had designed would now deliver justice with the same cold precision they had once provided security. Each security measure became a tool for the systematic dismantling of an access that Julian had never actually earned. The network shutdown began with surgical precision. Each frozen account represented years of stolen credit and misplaced trust. Travel bookings vanished from reservation systems as corporate credit cards were instantly deauthorized for any future transactions. The European investor tour Julian had been planning with Veronica evaporated into digital dust, along with the hotel reservations, private jet charters, and restaurant bookings that would have continued his performance of success, all funded by my innovations. Corporate cards began declining across countless merchant systems as I revoked authorization for the personal expenses that had masqueraded as business development. The operational freeze locked down $234 million behind protocols that now required my personal, direct approval, instantly transforming the celebrated co-CEO into a man who couldn't access a single penny of the company he claimed to run. Each keystroke was an act of justice, delivered with mathematical precision. Consequences were being served through the very systems I had designed back when partnership meant collaboration, not exploitation. My phone began to buzz with a frenzy of panicked calls as vendors, employees, and business partners discovered that Apex Innovations had suddenly become a financial ghost. The sheer frequency of the notifications suggested that word was spreading like wildfire through the network of suppliers and service providers who depended on our company for payment. Julian's assistant, Leo, would be fielding increasingly frantic inquiries about declined payments and frozen accounts, his explanations growing more desperate as he slowly realized the sheer scope of the financial lockdown. The legal document I began to draft was the culmination of everything I had learned over years of building companies and protecting intellectual property. Each clause was designed to systematically dismantle the life Julian had built on my work, written with the same precision I once used to code our most complex algorithms. The terms would reshape his understanding of ownership, contribution, and consequence, with legal language that left no room for negotiation or misinterpretation. Immediate resignation as co-CEO would strip him of the title that had provided the platform for his fraud. A permanent ban on Veronica's involvement with Apex Innovations would eliminate the external threat who had orchestrated tonight's corporate coup. A structured repayment of the $234 million over 4 years would ensure accountability for every dollar he had stolen. A public acknowledgement of my true role as founder would correct the historical record that had celebrated him as a visionary while relegating me to a footnote in my own story. Finally, a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement would prevent him from ever writing a memoir, giving an interview, or speaking at a conference about experiences he hadn't lived, innovations he hadn't created, or business decisions he had never made. The envelope sat sealed on our coffee table like a legal time bomb, containing the mathematical proof that actions have consequences, and that the woman who builds the theater ultimately decides who gets to perform on its stage. Each page represented justice, served with a precision that would have made my grandmother proud. It was accountability delivered through documentation, proving that authentic achievement will always triumph over borrowed glory when legal reality finally confronts a manufactured perception. The morning sun cast long, geometric patterns across our marble floors, illuminating the sealed envelope that was about to reshape Julian's entire reality. I had slept surprisingly well, the peace of finally taking action, replacing years of simmering resentment with a quiet, satisfying calm. My coffee tasted better than it had in months, each sip a taste of freedom from the pretense that performance and partnership were the same thing. At precisely 9:15 a.m., the intercom buzzed. It was Patrick, the doorman, his voice laced with a professional concern that suggested something was amiss. "Mrs. Thorne, there's a gentleman here from Apex Innovations, Leo Vance. He seems quite distressed and insists on speaking with you about urgent company matters." The timing was perfect. Julian's assistant was discovering the full scope of last night's consequences during business hours, when the impact would be rippling through every vendor, partner, and stakeholder. Leo emerged from the elevator looking like he'd survived a plane crash. His usually immaculate designer suit was rumpled, and his eyes had the wild, desperate look of a man whose entire world had just collapsed. The dark circles under his eyes told of a sleepless night spent fielding frantic calls from vendors whose payments had vanished into thin air. "Mrs. Thorne," he began, his voice cracking with exhaustion and barely contained panic. "We have a situation, multiple situations, everything. It's all frozen." He clutched a coffee cup with hands that trembled so violently I thought he might drop it. The caffeine was clearly no match for the stress of discovering your employer's financial paralysis. I gestured for him to sit on our Italian leather sofa, noting how he perched on the very edge, ready to flee. "Tell me exactly what's happening," I said, my voice calm, my authority absolute. I already knew everything he was about to say, because I had designed every aspect of the crisis he was now experiencing. "The corporate cards started declining around midnight," Leo stammered, the words tumbling out. "Hotel reservations for the European investor tour were canceled. The payroll system is showing insufficient authorization for this week's checks. Vendor invoices are all being rejected. Even basic office supply orders are getting declined." His face cycled through confusion, dawning recognition, and finally, sheer horror. "The conference room booking for today's emergency board meeting was canceled because our corporate account couldn't process the payment. 3 major investors have called asking why their funding transfers are showing authorization errors, and Veronica Slate's office has been calling every hour, demanding to know why her consulting fee payment was reversed. Can you fix this?" he pleaded, still clinging to the idea that this was a technical glitch, not an act of precision warfare. "Julian said you would know how to restore access. He mentioned something about security protocols you designed." I watched the horror dawn on his face as he finally began to understand. He wasn't dealing with a technical failure. He was witnessing the consequences of last night's gala. "Leo," I said with the patience of a teacher explaining basic arithmetic, "there are no technical glitches. The system is working exactly as I designed it to work." The envelope containing Julian's terms of surrender sat on the coffee table. I handed the sealed packet to Leo, watching his face drain of color as he realized he was holding a corporate death sentence. "Tell Julian the system is performing flawlessly," I said, my voice cold and steady. "These documents contain his new reality. He has 24 hours to respond." Leo accepted the envelope as if it were radioactive. "What should I tell the employees? The vendors? The investors?" he whispered. "Tell them the truth," I replied. "Tell them that when you mistake access for ownership, you eventually discover that the person who built the system retains ultimate authority over how it operates. Tell them that mathematical truth always, eventually, overcomes even the most sophisticated public relations." The elevator doors closed on a man who finally understood that supporting characters can sometimes write their own scripts, carrying the news that would shatter his boss's world. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since 6 a.m., a digital symphony of panic as Julian's empire crumbled in real time. 27 missed calls in the first 3 hours alone, each one a testament to another piece of his facade falling away. Veronica Slate's name appeared repeatedly between calls from frantic board members who were just learning that last night's romantic theater had dire financial consequences. I silenced the device and placed it face down, savoring the precision of consequences unfolding exactly as I had designed. The quiet in the penthouse was a sacred thing after years of noise and performance. At 11:45 p.m., a desperate, frantic knocking echoed through the penthouse. Julian had returned, transformed from tech royalty into emotional wreckage. I opened the door to a man who had spent 12 hours learning that his carefully orchestrated coup had backfired spectacularly. His designer suit was a mess, his confident demeanor replaced by a wild desperation that made him almost unrecognizable. "You can't destroy us like this," he whispered, still clinging to the delusion that there was an us left to destroy. Julian stumbled across the threshold of our penthouse like a man entering his own tomb. "Clara, we need to talk," he said, his voice hollow, stripped of the authority he no longer possessed. The legal documents were spread across the coffee table between us, a battlefield of paper. "You have to understand," he began, the words tumbling out in a desperate, rehearsed cascade. "Veronica's proposal, it wasn't what it seemed. It was a test, a way to make you fight for us, to prove your commitment." He paced the living room, constructing an elaborate fantasy where his public betrayal was actually an act of love. The sheer delusion of it was more insulting than the act itself. "Julian," I said, my voice as steady as a surgeon's hand, "you spent $234 million of my money. The math isn't complicated. The documentation on the table was irrefutable. Every receipt, every authorization painted a picture of systematic exploitation. That was our money," he protested, his voice cracking. "Joint assets. Partnership means sharing." I slid the incorporation papers across the table. "I own 67% of Apex Innovations. You own 33%. These are my patents. This was my grandmother's inheritance." His protests died in his throat, crumbling against the mathematical certainty of the documents. "Shared sacrifice?" I asked, the words dripping with ice. "You built a reputation on innovations you can't even debug. You gave keynotes on algorithms you don't understand. You accepted awards for my breakthroughs." When he pathetically suggested using a recording of Veronica's proposal as blackmail against her, I pulled out my phone, found the video, and deleted it in front of him. His last sliver of hope vanished. "I don't need blackmail, Julian," I told him, my voice firm. "I have mathematical truth." His face finally crumpled as he understood his own irrelevance. The surrender document was his only way out. "You can't be serious about these terms," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Sign the documents, or face litigation that will make tonight's financial freeze feel generous." His hands trembled as he signed each page, the pen moving with the desperate haste of a man who finally understood he'd been playing poker with the casino owner. Each signature was a confession, a piece of his constructed identity crumbling under the weight of legal reality. He signed away his title, agreed to repay the money, and committed to a public statement correcting the 6 years of lies. The final, most devastating clause was the non-disclosure agreement, condemning him to 5 years of enforced silence, unable to monetize the stories he had stolen. The documents were his confession. As he completed the final signature, his transformation from celebrated entrepreneur to a minority stakeholder in a company he never truly controlled was complete. The emergency board meeting convened at 8 a.m. I walked into the glass-walled conference room, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The 10 board members who had spent years deferring to Julian's charm now faced the woman who had actually built the company. "Good morning," I said, taking my rightful seat at the head of the table. "We have significant changes to discuss." Margaret Chin, our longest-serving board member, spoke first. "Clara, we understand there have been developments." I cut straight to the point. Julian Thorne has submitted his immediate resignation as co-CEO. Effective immediately, I am assuming sole control of all company operations. Furthermore, Veronica Slate and all entities associated with her are permanently banned from any involvement with Apex Innovations. The silence was heavy. I distributed copies of the incorporation papers, the patents, the financial records. The revelation transformed the room as these sophisticated investors realized they had been advising a company they had fundamentally misunderstood. Julian will be making a public statement, I announced, producing the confession he had signed. I read it aloud, his own words now serving my purpose. I acknowledge that Clara Thorne is the true founder and majority owner of Apex Innovations. The statement began. She developed our core algorithms, filed our patents, and made the strategic decisions that built this company. The board watched in horrified fascination as a celebrated entrepreneur was unmasked as a corporate fraud. The vote to approve the leadership transition was unanimous. 9 months later, I found myself in a completely different kitchen, brewing coffee in a cozy Cambridge townhouse. My new life as a visiting professor at MIT was a world away from the performance art of the Chicago penthouse. The quiet satisfaction of authentic work had replaced the hollow glamour. I had invested $50 million into a new venture, Quantum Labs, run by my brilliant former assistant, now Dr. Maya Chen. Her team was already revolutionizing medical diagnostics. A letter from Julian arrived one morning. He was teaching at a community college in Portland, his handwriting shaky. I realize now you tried to teach me the difference between being important and being authentic, he wrote. I apologize it took losing everything to finally understand. His monthly repayment checks arrived like clockwork. Veronica's reputation had taken a significant hit. Her failed takeover attempt became a cautionary tale in business schools about the perils of not doing your due diligence. Standing in my honest kitchen, I knew the best revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about reconstruction, building a life on my own terms. The math had worked perfectly. Actions plus consequences equals justice. If this story of calculated corporate revenge captivated you from start to finish, please hit that like button to show your support. My favorite moment was when Clara deleted the video, proving she didn't need blackmail because she had the ultimate power, the truth. What was your most memorable scene from Clara's journey to justice? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And to make sure you never miss stories of justice served with mathematical precision, subscribe and activate that notification bell for all our latest uploads. End of story.